China only ever had one female emperor, and her life was full of betrayal, sex, and murder. Happy Women's History Month. Today, we're going to be talking about Wu Zhao or Wu Zetian. I'm going to be focusing on her rise to power because it is a juicy story. Wu Zhao was born in about 624 AD. We're not sure exactly when because her birth was disregarded as unimportant. She was the second daughter in the second marriage of a wealthy lumber merchant in northwestern China. Wu Zhao's mother had no sons, so she doted on her daughters and educated them. When she was about 13, she became a concubine to Emperor Taizong. I'm so sorry if I mispronounce like everything in this, by the way. She was super hot and smart, but too strong-willed for his taste. While Taizong was dying, she started sleeping with his son and heir Yaozong. After Taizong's death, she was initially sent to a convent, like a nun convent, a Buddhist one, because women could not be touched by another after they had already been touched by one, so she was just kind of like sent off to live out the rest of her life as a sad little nun. But Gaozong really liked her, and on the anniversary of his father's death, he went to burn incense in the same area that the convent was in. And Wu Zhang, gazing on the young emperor, her lover, and thinking of her own piteous lot, her shaven head and nun's cassock, tears began to stream down her cheeks. Gaozong, seeing her so distraught, began to cry too. He was married to Empress Wang, but kept visiting the convent to see Wu Zhao. His wife wasn't threatened because her status as empress was, she thought, as far above that of a cast-off talent of the previous ruler, a woman of common rather than aristocratic blood, as heaven above earth. Empress Wang was more threatened by Gaozong's favorite concubine, pure consort Zhao, because Wang had no children and Zhao had like 3 or 4 of his. I can't remember the exact amount. Gaozong eventually brought Wu Zhao back to the court, despite criticism from members of the court, since she was his father's previous concubine and he was taking her on as one of his own. Very scandalous. Wu Zhao was not going to squander her second chance. She worked to become liked by the empress, who in turn praised her to Gaozong in an effort to continue distracting him from his previous favorite, pure consort Zhao. Empress Wang was a snobby bitch who treated those of lesser birth like shit. Wu Zhao befriended her enemies and had many eyes and ears all around the castle, telling her stuff. Now, at this point in time, Wu Zhao had 2 sons and then a daughter. This is an alleged story. It might have been made up by future historians to slander her. But one day, late in the fall of 654 AD, Empress Wang, still childless, wistfully dandled and cooed at the little princess. As soon as she left, Wu Zhao secretly entered and smothered the infant with a swaddling quilt. A short while later, when the emperor arrived, Wu Zhao put on a cheerful face and pulled back the covers to show Gaozong their little jewel. She revealed the suffocated child, blue and cold. As Wu Zhao cried out, Gaozong asked the attendants, the selfsame women so often derisively brushed aside by Empress Wang, who had most recently entered the chamber. They replied, the Empress. In a towering rage, Gaozong howled, the Empress has murdered my child. Seeing that her plan had worked, Wu Zhao chimed in, tearfully accusing Empress Wang. That was when Gaozong began to seriously consider getting rid of Empress Wang and replacing her with Wu Zhao as his, wife. Now, the old guard traditional aristocrats who liked Empress Wang and disliked Wu Zhao would not stand for her suddenly being deposed for allegedly killing a concubine's daughter. So Wu Zhao accused her of conspiring with her mother to perform black magic within the inner palace. According to the Tang Code of Laws, sorcery was listed under the category of depraved crimes as one of the 10 abominations, the most egregious sort of capital crime. Curiously, in all of these conversations and documents, neither emperor nor ministers mentioned the suffocation of the infant princess or the black magic. The basis on which Gaozong wished to depose Empress Wang, valid grounds according to Tang law, was her failure to bear any children. It was a huge deal to try and depose Empress Wang because it was like, getting rid of an alliance with the Wang clan. But eventually they succeeded, and Wu Zhao became the Empress of Gaozong. They had the former Empress Wang and pure consort Zhao locked up in prison, and one day Gaozong went to visit them, which Wu Zhao was not having any of that because, Gaozong went to visit her when she was sent to a convent, and then she was there as Empress. Like, he was way too forgiving and sympathetic in her eyes. She learned about this, and she had each beaten 100 strokes, after which their hands and feet were severed. Both amputees were cast into a vat of fermented wine, prompting Wu Zhao to snort, now you crones can get drunk to your very marrow. Both died after days of suffering. In the midst of this lingering torment, pure consort Zhao cursed, only because little Miss Wu is an enchantress of a fox spirit have things reached this juncture. I shall be reincarnated as a cat and little Miss Wu as a mouse, so that I can pounce on her and tear her throat out in vengeance. Learning of Zhao's dying imprecation, the superstitious Wu Zhao banished cats from the imperial palace. Now, she was a practicing Buddhist and kind of went against the Confucian traditional role as empress to stay in the palace and manage domestic affairs. The emperor and empress ruled in a partnership known as the Two Sages. After Gaozong had a stroke in 660, he called on Wu Zhao to take over many of his duties, but she never completely dominated his position during his life, also basically honored her as one of his successors. The provision of her husband's will that most interested her read, great matters of state that cannot be decided, both civil and military, shall be determined by the celestial empress. When Gaozong died in 683, instead of retiring, she stayed determined to hold power. Now, the successor after Gaozong died was Crown Prince Li Xian, but they had a lot of beef. The most poignant root of this mother-son power struggle was not political, but deeply emotional and personal. Li Hesian was not Wu Zhao's son. He was really the son of her elder sister, the Lady of Han, who as a young widow in the early 650s had frequented Wu Zhao's apartments and enjoyed Gaozong's sexual attentions. She passed him off as her own son, though, to strengthen her position because 2 sons was better than 1. She had a ton of beef with him. I can't even get into it, but she basically framed him as trying to steal the throne. But she went through her sons one by one, deposing them in various ways until finally she took the throne in 690 by officially changing the name of the country from Tang to Zhao, changing the name of the royal family from Li to Wu, and holding a formal ceremony to crown herself as emperor. She was considered a good ruler, but super controversial. For more information, please read Wu Zhao, China's Only Woman Emperor by N. Harry Rothschild. It's